response to the ongoing war in Gaza. However, the proposal faces significant hurdles as key member states show reluctance to adopt these actions. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kallas emphasised that the goal of the measures is not to punish Israel, but to address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. She called an end to the war, the cessation of suffering, and the immediate release of all hostages held by Hamas. We are now joined by Andrew Latham once again. He is a professor of international relations and he joins us live from Minneapolis. Andrew, of course, the European Union is a bloc of 27 countries, all with different heads of state, all with different politics, all with different stances on Israel. What are your thoughts on Kallas' statements here, proposing significant measures to curb trade ties with Israel and sanction particular ministers, including that of Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, and the national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir? Your thoughts on these words and possible actions of Kallas there?
Yeah, on the one hand, I think this is Kallas trying to carve out a more prominent foreign policy role for the European Union. That is not one of its strengths. As you pointed out, they're made up of 20-odd members, all of whom have different national interests, and there aren't really sufficient or adequate mechanisms at the European Union level to coordinate foreign policy, especially around a contentious issue like this. So I think to one extent, in one sense, bureaucratic empire building, perhaps on her part, but certainly institution building, strengthening the EU in this respect. On the other hand, I rather suspect that she's channeling the political views of a substantial number of EU member states who increasingly have to be responsive to immigrant constituencies or native-born constituencies that tend to favor the Palestinian cause over the state of Israel. And I think that's part of what's going on here as well. There's also, I think, perhaps a little bit of grandstanding. Her name has popped up in the last few weeks more than I've ever heard it before, around the Ukraine issue, around India and oil, now around this particular issue. So one is moved to wonder if there are some personal, professional dynamics at play here. I wouldn't read I'm not in a position to read too much into that, but I think it's at play. Will it come to anything? I think the individual member states will do what they want to do with respect to Israel's military action in the Gaza Strip. I don't think the EU will have a very prominent role to play, except perhaps as a talking shop where ministers and their subordinates can exchange views. But this, I think, will be driven by national interest and national policy and will not be a prominently European Union initiative.
Okay, Andrew, do stay with us.